What if I told you that most of your suffering doesn't come from your circumstances, but from your own mind's obsession with controlling them? Here's the truth no one likes to admit. Your thoughts lie. They convince you you're broken, behind, or unworthy. And the worst part? You believe them. But there's a secret that mystics, sages, and thinkers like Carl Jung have always known. Freedom doesn't come from fixing your life. It comes from watching your mind without becoming it. This isn't just spiritual fluff or motivational noise. We're talking about real, psychological liberation, a path where individuation meets modern mindfulness, and where the archetype of the free mind emerges, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. You'll learn why your thoughts aren't you, how to detach from emotional chaos, and how to unlock a wisdom that's been buried under noise and expectations. This is for those who are tired of repeating the same cycles and ready to reclaim their inner power, without needing to retreat to a mountaintop or meditate for 10 hours a day. If you've ever felt like your mind is your biggest enemy, or like you're trapped in an invisible cage of overthinking, guilt, and emotional loops, this video is the crack in that cage. Stick around, because once you see what's really going on inside your human mind, you won't just want freedom. You'll realize your freedom, and that changes everything. The power of thoughts and the illusion of self-perception. It's wild how many people wake up each day already carrying a storm in their heads. Negative thoughts swirling around like an unwanted playlist on repeat. They don't realize that every judgment they make about themselves, "I'm not good enough, I always mess things up," slowly molds their reality into a prison. Carl Jung would say they're stuck identifying with a distorted self-image, forgetting that the self is much deeper than their insecurities. These thought patterns shape not only how they see themselves, but how they engage with the world. And the worst part? Most don't even know they're doing it. This is the trap of negative self-perception. Once the mind embraces a label, it filters every experience to reinforce it. It becomes a psychoanalysis of self-sabotage. You might have one bad presentation, and suddenly, you're not leadership material. That one heartbreak? Now you're unlovable. It's not truth, it's projection. And the shadow loves this game because it thrives in unconscious repetition. The human mind, left unchecked, becomes its own bully, crafting limiting beliefs that loop like a bad Netflix series you never unsubscribed from. Breaking free begins with the art of observation. Noticing when your mind says, "You're failing," and responding, "Oh, really?" Based on what evidence? That's the beginning of individuation, when your conscience wakes up and starts challenging inherited ideas. Write down your most frequent negative thoughts, and beside them, note whose voice they sound like. A parent? A teacher? Society? This practice brings discernment, and with it, a slow return to self-trust. You begin to see how much of your suffering is self-authored. A helpful step is replacing those toxic narratives with conscious mantras, not fake affirmations, but grounded inner dialogue like, "I'm in the process of learning," or "Mistakes are how I grow." The goal isn't to pretend you're perfect. It's to shift the energy flow from shame to awareness. Meditation and mindfulness are allies here, not to silence the mind, but to listen deeply and reclaim the inner power hidden beneath all that noise. As you rewrite the script, the unconscious mind slowly integrates and heals. And here's where things get interesting. The moment you stop identifying with those broken thought loops, something incredible happens. You begin to observe without judgment. That's where freedom begins to peek through the cracks, leading you into the next layer of awakening, one where detachment becomes your superpower, and the observer within finally takes the wheel. Detachment in the observer's state of consciousness. Most people don't live their lives. They live their thoughts about their lives. They react to every trigger like it's a personal attack, as if every emotion requires an immediate defense or overreaction. But there's a wiser way. The human mind has a built-in superpower, awareness. When you train yourself to witness thoughts and emotions without latching onto them, you begin to experience what Carl Jung hinted at, the separation between the ego and the self. That's detachment, and it's not cold or indifferent. It's peaceful. It's the art of not drowning in every emotional wave that comes your way. Let's say you're walking into a meeting and suddenly you feel anxious. The old you might spiral. Why do I feel this? What's wrong with me? But the observer pauses, notices the sensation, and says, interesting, anxiety's visiting. No resistance, no judgment, just pure consciousness watching the drama unfold like a silent witness in a theater. This non-reactive state doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mind control through understanding, not force. When you observe rather than identify, you reclaim your emotional freedom, one thought at a time. To get there, you need stillness. Not just quiet around you, but quiet within you. That stillness comes from meditation, breath work, and sacred pauses between stimulus and response. Start small. Before responding to a text, take one conscious breath. That moment is where emotional balance is born. In time, these little gaps of awareness multiply and give you space to choose how you feel, how you act, and how much peace you allow in. Think of it as training the muscle of mental discipline. The gym is your inner world, and the reps are your thoughts. This shift from reaction to reflection rewires your whole nervous system. You become more patient, less drained, and strangely, more loving. That's because you're no longer trying to control every thought. You're learning to observe without fear. It's what some call judgment-free observation, and it's a portal to higher states of being. No longer tossed around by the chaos of appearances or triggered by every mood, you become grounded in transcendental wisdom, a calm center in a noisy world. And from that center, a quiet miracle begins to unfold. Your mind starts working for you, not against you. The heart, long silenced by the noise, starts whispering again. And when heart and mind align, well, that's when real mastery begins to take root. Detachment in the observer's state of consciousness. Most people don't live their lives. They live their thoughts about their lives. They react to every trigger like it's a personal attack, as if every emotion requires an immediate defense or overreaction. But there's a wiser way. The human mind has a built-in superpower, awareness. When you train yourself to witness thoughts and emotions without latching onto them, you begin to experience what Carl Jung hinted at, the separation between the ego and the self. That's detachment, and it's not cold or indifferent. It's peaceful. It's the art of not drowning in every emotional wave that comes your way. Let's say you're walking into a meeting and suddenly you feel anxious. The old you might spiral. Why do I feel this? What's wrong with me? But the observer pauses, notices the sensation, and says, interesting, anxiety's visiting. No resistance, no judgment, just pure consciousness watching the drama unfold like a silent witness in a theater. This non-reactive state doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mind control through understanding, not force. When you observe rather than identify, you reclaim your emotional freedom, one thought at a time. To get there, you need stillness. Not just quiet around you, but quiet within you. That stillness comes from meditation, breath work, and sacred pauses between stimulus and response. Start small. Before responding to a text, take one conscious breath. That moment is where emotional balance is born. In time, these little gaps of awareness multiply and give you space to choose how you feel, how you act, and how much peace you allow in. Think of it as training the muscle of mental discipline. The gym is your inner world, and the reps are your thoughts. This shift from reaction to reflection rewires your whole nervous system. You become more patient, less drained, and strangely, more loving. That's because you're no longer trying to control every thought. You're learning to observe without fear. It's what some call judgment-free observation, and it's a portal to higher states of being. No longer tossed around by the chaos of appearances or triggered by every mood, you become grounded in transcendental wisdom, a calm center in a noisy world. And from that center, a quiet miracle begins to unfold. Your mind starts working for you, not against you. The heart, long silenced by the noise, starts whispering again. And when heart and mind align, well, that's when real mastery begins to take root. Mastering the mind and aligning with the heart. Most people think they are their thoughts, but let's get one thing straight. The mind is a tool, not your master. Carl Jung would argue that when the ego runs the show, the self stays in the shadows. Mastering the mind means you learn to use it like a craftsman uses his tools, intentionally, precisely, and with love. You wouldn't let a hammer build a house on its own. So why let your mind run wild without direction? Once you understand this, self-awareness becomes your compass, and emotional clarity begins to bloom. One practical way to start is by tracking your inner dialogue for a single day. Write down your dominant thoughts every few hours. Notice any recurring patterns, especially those shaped by expectations, fear, or outdated beliefs. Then, here's the twist. Don't try to silence them. Instead, introduce the heart. Ask, what would love say right now? When the mind screams, you're behind, the heart might whisper, you're learning. This is alignment. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about integration, where the human mind and emotional intelligence join forces. That union doesn't happen overnight. It takes patience, repetition, and conscious focus. Some days your thoughts will hijack you before breakfast, and that's okay. Mastery isn't perfection, it's persistence. Every moment of mental detachment, every time you choose presence over panic, you're building a deeper relationship with your inner life. Books like The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer or The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle can be fantastic companions on this path. They offer powerful frameworks for regaining command over your consciousness. Over time, you start feeling something else bubbling beneath the noise, inner power. The mind softens, and instead of frantic thinking, you hear calm guidance. This is the birth of discernment. You begin to feel what's true, not just think it. Your perception sharpens, and the fog clears. You don't just think better, you live wiser. It's no longer about controlling everything. It's about flowing with the current of divine intelligence, without losing yourself in the process. And that flow, it always leads toward one thing: love. Not the romantic kind, but the kind that fuels galaxies and dissolves illusions. When love becomes your anchor, and the mind your servant, you tap into the kind of freedom that can't be shaken. And that's exactly where the real transformation begins to take shape. The role of love in transcendence and spiritual freedom. Love isn't a feeling, it's a force. It's the universal code embedded in every living thing, from the movement of planets to the beat of your heart. When Carl Jung explored the process of individuation, he hinted that wholeness isn't achieved through intellect alone, it requires the heart. Without love, all spiritual knowledge remains just theory. It's love that melts the hardened ego and reveals the self. It's what transforms philosophy into practical wisdom and meditation into living awareness. Love is the gateway to true spiritual freedom. But here's the twist. Love isn't something you chase. It's something you align with. That starts by tuning into your own energy flow. Ever notice how some people feel instantly calming, while others drain the life out of a room? That's not luck, it's frequency. When you operate from fear, your vibration contracts. When you live from love, everything expands. Your perception, your relationships, your inner peace. This is what makes mindfulness so powerful. When you're truly present, the heart speaks, and what it says is always rooted in truth. To experience this firsthand, try a simple but radical act. Forgive someone today, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is love in action. It dissolves energetic blockages and realigns you with consciousness. Or better yet, practice self-acceptance. Look in the mirror and, without flinching, say, "I love you," even when you mess up. That's spiritual rebellion. That's the moment you stop trying to earn worth and start embodying it. Love, after all, isn't about perfection. It's about presence. When you begin to see the divine in the ordinary, in silence, in stillness, in your breath, you start tasting transcendence. This isn't about escaping life's problems. It's about dissolving the illusion that problems define you. Transcendental wisdom isn't floating above reality. It's seeing through it. It's walking into chaos with serenity, grounded in a love that doesn't flinch. You stop reacting and start creating. That's when true spiritual evolution kicks in. And as this transformation deepens, something sacred unfolds. Your identity shifts from a fragile persona to a radiant expression of the universal consciousness. You no longer seek peace, you become it. And from that space, one final step remains: the leap into self-realization, where peace and freedom stop being goals and reveal themselves as your true nature. Reaching true peace and freedom through self-realization. There's a point on the inner journey where the mind grows tired of its own noise. It has argued, defended, blamed, and resisted for so long that even the ego starts craving silence. This is the turning point, the sacred exhaustion that signals the birth of self-realization. Carl Jung called it the confrontation with the unconscious mind, a moment where illusions fall and what remains is raw, authentic consciousness. No masks, no stories. Just you, as you've always been beneath the conditioning. That kind of freedom isn't something you acquire. It's something you remember. It's been there all along, buried beneath layers of mental debris and emotional weight. Once the shadow is integrated and the war inside dissolves, peace stops being conditional. It becomes your baseline. You no longer need external approval, answers, or even understanding. The observer within you has awakened fully, and through it, you begin radiating a kind of serenity that words can't touch. You become a lighthouse for others lost in the fog. To walk this path, start living as if you already are what you seek. One more piece. Practice being unbothered by trivial things. One more wisdom. Spend time in stillness, journaling your daily lessons. Want to feel free. Release the need to control everything. One powerful daily ritual is asking, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves my transformation? Let that question be your compass. The answer might surprise you. It's often a belief, not a person. And here's where it all comes full circle. The more you surrender, the lighter you become. Not passive surrender, but the powerful kind, the letting go of resistance, of needing life to go a certain way. You stop living from reaction and start dancing with reality. You realize that emotional balance isn't a perfect state, it's a flexible one. One where joy and pain can both exist without stealing your peace. This is the essence of mental discipline rooted in universal consciousness. Eventually, you stop searching, not because you found everything, but because you realized you were never missing anything. That's the paradox of the free mind. It doesn't escape life, it transcends its illusions. And in that transcendence, a new question begins to echo quietly. What happens when you stop striving and simply become? Now that you've seen the illusion for what it is, are you really going to keep believing everything your mind throws at you? The time for passive suffering is over. If your thoughts no longer reflect your truth, why keep giving them the microphone? True self-realization doesn't ask for perfection, it demands honesty. So ask yourself, are you ready to observe without judgment, to detach from the noise, and finally step into that quiet inner power that's been waiting all along? What would your life look like if you didn't identify with every fear, every doubt, every thought that tried to define you? What happens when the observer in you wakes up and stays awake? Because here's the reality. Freedom is not a future reward. It's a present choice. The path is right here. The tools are in your hands. Meditation, self-reflection, emotional balance, and a deep trust in the wisdom flowing through your consciousness. This is where the transformation begins, but only if you walk it. So I'll leave you with this. Are you brave enough to stop seeking and start seeing? Because if you are, then you're not just a mind in conflict anymore. You're the living embodiment of divine intelligence in motion. And that's what this channel is here to remind you. Subscribe now, hit that notification bell, and join this space of peace, clarity, and awakening. You're not alone on this path, and the journey is just getting started.